yours. From the day that we were born, even more when we were grown. We would ride like the wind through many miles of road. Nothing ever could divide us. A bond only brothers know. Well, I fell down to my knees the day I got the news that I was left to face this world.
But more importantly, what's so cool about technology today, I actually have Don on the phone with me right now, coming to you live from South Carolina. Good afternoon, Mr. Nivens.
Hey, Jim, how you doing?
Man, great. Wow, we've got such a response out of your music. And I got to tell you, I've heard people like, that. He looks just like Joe Cocker. And I looked at the photographs, you do.
I've heard that a couple of times before. I never actually really paid much attention to it, but I've actually heard that from a couple other people.
Well, first of all, I want to congratulate you on your success for your CD, The Dog, the Cat, and the Mirror. Wow, that's powerful stuff, man. And it is some. And I was telling the listeners about that song, Brother to Brother. There's a kind of a backstory to that that's pretty touching. Would you like to share that with us?
Yeah, I was when I first come out with the album, The Dog, the Cat, and the Mirror. I got a guy to play it in New Jersey, but he had a DJ from Alabama that just loved it, and he would always talk with me and play it every chance he had, And him and his brother, he had a brother, and they were both really big into customizing motorcycles and things and competing against each other, but they were really close. And his brother, October a couple of years ago, was tragically killed in a motorcycle accident. Wow. And I was seeing the feeds that were coming across Facebook from the DJ, and as the weeks went on, the feeds that the things he was putting out there were literally kind of scaring me, because he was so depressed, and things he was saying just, I felt like, man, this guy sounds like he's really getting close to the edge, and
sure.
So I decided to give him a call, and we talked for a long time, and at the end of our conversation, he just out of the blue said, "I want you to write me and my brother a song."
Really?
And it took me by surprise, and it kind of shocked me a little bit, and I just hesitated, and I said, "Well," he says, "you're the only one that could write that song." And, well, how can you, possibly say no?
Right, yeah, right.
And so I was a little nervous about it, but I reluctantly said, "Yes, I'll do it." And I told him, I said, "But this isn't something I can do overnight. It's going to take a while." And so it did take 6 months or so before I finally came up with what I wanted. And I think he actually forgot that he had asked me that. And so I sent him a rough sketch of it one night, and he was just totally elated. So, and he just sends me these messages all the time, and he'll tell me how much he loves it, how much he appreciates it. And then I got him a copy of the production finished right before Christmas. So I was really wanting to get it to him before Christmas, and I got it to him about a week before Christmas, and he told me that was the best Christmas present he had ever got.
Wow. But you know, it seems like they would definitely. I mean, you know, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but it would sound like that would be kind of a whole lot of pressure kind of put on you to do that. But you know what? You knocked it out of the park. That's a wonderful song.
Oh, thank you. But you know, it was hard, and at first I was approaching it from the wrong way. I was trying to make it too directly personal, and so I went out and I read his Facebook feeds for probably 6 months worth of Facebook feeds I was scrolling back through. And really it dawned on me that, you know, that I was trying to be too directly personal with it, and I just needed to address the cohesiveness between brothers. And, you know, the first time I actually played the song, I played it live, at a place in near Greenville, South Carolina, and there was a friend of mine there. She's listening today, by the way. Sheedy Ambrosio, that has a My Daddy Radio in Greenville, Spartanburg area, and her husband, who was her fiance at the time, his brother had died in a tragedy too, and it didn't really dawn on me that night when I played the song, but after I got through playing the song and got down, they approached me and I realized, wow, you know, this man just went through the same thing, and he told me how much the song moved him, and so and I've had a lot of other people come up to me since. I've had women come up and say they lost their brother, and just how it just, you know, tore them up.
Well, I can tell you from my perspective, when I first heard it, I actually until I actually read the story behind the story you just told. When I first heard it, I thought of brother to brother as in military. You know, that's kind of come to my mind a little bit, and then I just thought, you know, from a philosophical point, it's just, you know, brother to brother, sister to sister. We're all here, you know, and we miss each other when we're not around. But
yeah, and exactly, and that's when I finally was able to sit down and write the song, when I approached it from that angle, that it's not, I don't need to write it about these two people personally. I need to write it as more of a generality, because people experience this every day.
Sadly to say, they do. Yes.
Between military, between bikers, between friends, between real brothers, between people that just love each other like brothers, you know. And so when I approached it from that aspect, it all came together for me, you know.
Well, I want to give you, first of all, I want to give you a big shout out and all of our world to let them know that not only are you a talented writer, composer, singer, the whole gamut there, but you're also a U.S. Air Force veteran, and we thank you for your service, sir.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. My service was cold, man.
Yeah, mine as well, so I understand. You know, let's get back a little bit. How, you know, let's take the people on a ride, shall we, real quickly? How did you get into music, and how did you progress to where you are now? Can you do that in a couple minutes? Can you tell that story?
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, to be honest with you, I was stationed at an Air Force station. It was on what they call the D-Line, Defense Early Warning, back in the 70s, up near the Arctic Circle in Alaska. That's where the radar sites were, and they didn't have satellite technology, you know, like we do now.
Right.
And so we were constantly monitoring Russia in particular at the time, you know.
Yeah, they're right across the line there, yeah.
That's right. And so it was an isolated duty. There was only about 70 of us up there. And there were no roads back to town. You know, it was 875 miles north of Anchorage. And so you were pretty bored most of the time. And it was so extremely cold, you really didn't get out much. And so I ordered a guitar through the, they called it PACAF or something like that, where military people could order through the Pacific Japan command where they could bring in stuff.
Yeah, good old AFES, as we call it. Yeah, I got you. Yep.
Yeah, and so I ordered me a guitar. I had no instructions. I had nothing to go by. And I just sat down and tried to figure out how to play it. We didn't have YouTube.
Which I swear to God, you can find out how to do anything on the internet nowadays. I swear to God you can.
Yeah, and so I started, and I found a couple of instruction books and ordered them. So I had a lot of time on my hands. Well, when I got out of the Air Force, I kept playing, and I was in some bands but it didn't really ever work out to anything very big, and I would get aggravated with keeping a band together was hard, especially back then because there was a lot of drug use and stuff going on, and I just didn't participate in that. It's kind of a tough thing. So eventually I started soloing because it was easier to solo acoustic guitar. And I did that for a lot of years, and that's what I enjoyed doing. And I started writing songs, and in the late 80s and 90s, I wanted to play my originals, and everyone wanted you to play cover songs.
Sure, right, yeah. Yep.
And so I really got frustrated, and I just quit playing because I said, well, if I can't play my originals, I don't want to play. And so I really just became a sit-at-home player for a long time, probably 15, 18 years, something like that. And finally, my little girl and my wife just kept after me to go back out and play. And my wife says, you need to go record a CD of your songs you've written. And she encouraged me to do it. And finally, she talked me into it. And I did, and it just kind of went from there. And now I'm working on the second CD, and I personally think it's going to be better than the first because of experiences versus until I know more about where I want to go with it, as opposed to the first time I just put it together and.
But I'm also sure, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm also sure that, going through that, you also learn for the fact that, okay, when you get into the studio, it's a little bit different. You got this, the sound and all that you have to take in consideration, right? So.
Yeah, and I was actually a little nervous when I first went in there because the guys I was working with were really well-known studio musicians, and they had been around for decades. The drummer, Tony Kreisman, Jeremy Medkiff's guitar player, he was working with, I think Melinda Doolittle, the one that was on American Idol at one time, and Tony Kreisman was playing doing sessions for Willie Nelson, and he's worked with Alison Krauss, James Taylor, you name it. He's worked with all the greats. As a matter of fact, he's in the Willie Nelson video. It's All Going to Pot. That's the same drummer.
Oh, wow.
And so, but as I got in there, it was a real comfortable environment, and nobody was stressed out, and everybody just was really, really encouraging. And if you made a mistake, it didn't bother them. It didn't faze them. They said, okay, we'll do it again, Well,
let me ask you this. How much, and I know you started off, you said solo, and then you and your wife, and God bless, I'm telling you, God bless our better halves, because they probe us to be better and better. Mine does the same thing. But let me ask you, how you said you was nervous, I get that, but you're used to doing your thing, you probably set up your own sound system, your own thing when you're on, and all of a sudden you walk into a studio. It's like a different world in a studio.
It is. And you just, you're looking for, once you get your basic tracks down that you want, it's going back and trying to just perfect everything, especially on my part, after the initial sessions, they threw my acoustic guitar tracks were just thrown out, and then I go back in there and play the acoustics over and over until we get, the perfect sound. And,
well, I can tell you, and I have to tell you, and I've always been a big fan of backup singers, if you will. I don't know why. I've always liked the underdog, but whoever that young lady who does the backup singing in Your Brother to Brother, she knocks it out of the park.
Oh, man. Yeah. Jamie Wright is her name. It's spelled W-R-I-G-H-T, and you ought to check her out. She is phenomenal, and she's got. I couldn't begin to go over her resume. It's that long, and she is phenomenal.
So she's a studio artist as well.
Yes, and she also has her own gig. She goes out and plays, and I mean, she's busy. She's playing 4 or 5 times a week, and at the same time, she's teaching vocal lessons at the here in Easley, South Carolina, at what they call the Foothills. What do they call it? The Foothills Playhouse, and she teaches vocal during the day, and then we'll go out and play her gigs at night.
Yeah, and like I said, I enjoyed you. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to, but I just when I heard she go, brother, and she got up there and like, whoa, she really brought it together. What I thought, wow.
Well, you ain't heard nothing yet, 'cause she's on 2 more of my songs, and on one of them in particular, I'm gonna tell you, man, when it comes out, you're really gonna hear her stuff. You're really gonna hear it.
Okay, and we're going to talk a little bit about your style. I mean, I see where your influences, little Neil Young, Cat Stevens, Southern rock, classic rock, little Queensryche even you threw in there. But what do you?
Yeah.
Well, when you sit down, I mean, especially since you are let's go back a little bit. You started off as an acoustic player. You write your own stuff. Where do you really think you fit it into the quote unquote genre world?
Well, I don't know. At times, and actually, I get a lot of. That's been one of the, I guess, biggest things that people come at me with is, especially people that are professionals in the industry. Like one man I talked to in Nashville, he said, "I can't figure out what genre he in." And then he went to criticizing the fact that I didn't have a particular genre. He says, "Man, 1 minute you're this, 1 minute you're that. Next minute you sound like you're playing folk music with folk instruments." He said, "You're all over the place."
And I would agree with that, but I like that personally.
And he says, but he's kind of one of those that's married into this cloning system that they seem to have in certain genres of music now, and it's
right.
just. And I said, well, he said, and he went on and he says, "How do you expect to do anything?" He says, "I don't see how that could work out." I just was. At this point, I was a little aggravated with him, and
Sure.
I just said, "Well, it worked out pretty good for the Eagles and Neil Young and people like that." So I don't know.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, I hear
And I just listed it that. And I thought, well, as a songwriter, you don't always fit into a particular genre. I've been called Roots Americana, and it's not really a problem until you go to advertise the music through a download. Somebody like Airplay Direct who's downloading to radio stations and things, or where radio stations can download your music, and they force you to put your music into a genre. If you pick the wrong genre, because what these people think is one genre, you might think is something else.
You really hit the head of the nail on the head when you use the analogy of the Eagles. I was listening to a interview Don Henley did, and he said all he ever wanted to do was country music, and they played a lot. They were played on a lot of country music stations around the country, and people said, "Really, they're country?" Well, that's what he wanted, and that's where they focused. They just happened to catch on fire everywhere else.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Now I'm going to ask
you. Yeah, there's a lot of artists that have fell in that, I think, trap too.
I'm going to ask you.
Neil Young.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
and Neil Young, Dan Fogler, those guys have gone anywhere from having a rock sound 1 minute to almost a bluegrass sound the next, But, yeah, it's...
Okay, now here's the question I'm going to ask you. And I do this, if you listen to any of my interviews, I always ask this question. And the question is this. What is... Now, this is kind of a two-part thing, so I'll ask like 2 or 3 questions. So wait till I answer that after. What are you wanting? What are you wanting? Are you wanting a record label, or are you wanting your independence? And the reason I bring that up is I always ask this question. I've talked to a lot of people throughout the years who have gotten their label, they got everything they wanted, and they totally hated it for the fact they lost control. Then I've had other people say, well, to now, in today's society, with all this social media and all that, I can actually do my own thing, but I don't have the funds to produce it. Where do you stand? Would you want somebody as a label to sign you, or would you prefer to stay independent?
That's a tough thing. Like you say, the problem comes in is I would like the label, I guess, if the situation was one that I liked. Because the biggest problem, I think, there's a lot of great independent artists out there, and I mean just absolutely great.
You're absolutely right.
But they can't take thousands and thousands of dollars a month and promote their music. They can't hire the publicist, and they can't hire the people to set up the tours and this, that, and the other. It costs a lot of money up front. And until you're making that kind of money, you can't afford to spend that kind of money. It's a catch-22 that's it's hard to get over that barrel.
Well, you talk about getting over the barrel. Are you and I told the audience already that you literally just hours before we went on together, just finally got your master of your latest song. Set us up for that so we can go out with the first worldwide debut of your new song.
Okay, Blank Sheets of Paper is a song that I wrote. I was watching the news and one night, and the first 15 or 20 minutes of the news came on, and it was the same old. There was this murder here, this murder there was this child molestation here, there was this rape here, robberies here, and there was a particular pretty big thing that had happened, and I was expecting to hear about it on the news. That's why I was paying so much attention. And they didn't even talk about it. And I said, man, they didn't even talk about this. And then I got to thinking about it, and I told my wife, I said, there's so much bad news, they can't even fit it all in. I said, back when I was young, that's the way the national news was. They would go out and get all the news, and they would just narrow it down to their 30-minute news in the evening news, and they just highlighted the biggest things. I said, but now it's like they're doing that on the local level. They can't even fit it all in anymore.
It's so sad.
And it's just, and I said, it's pathetic. And I made the statement, I said, God, if the world could just find peace for one day, I said, wouldn't that be great? And when I said that, it just kind of stuck in the back of my mind, and I went back in there that night and started writing that. I wrote that line out, and then I just kind of built that song around that line, and I called the song Blank Sheets of Paper. Because if there was no bad news, the newspapers would just be one blank sheet of paper.
I absolutely, well, I love it. I was going to say, I actually love and I love the title for more of the story, but I got to concur when it comes to the news. I'm a news fanatic. My wife personally says, why do you watch and read this stuff? It's all pitiful. I mean, so yeah, you are kind of right. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, please go out to our website, www.avradio.org. Go to the artists we support. You will find Don Nivens right there. Go out on Twitter. He's out there right now. Light him up. make him work for it for about a week and a half because you tag him so much. But more importantly, go out and buy his music. Where can they buy your music, Don?
Okay, I'm available at all of the digital media outlets, I think. I use CD Baby as a distributor, and they distribute it to all the other places. It's available. You can actually buy the hard copy of the CD through CD Baby. There's another place in Kentucky, Alliance. And I think they can, because of the way they distribute it, you can go to any brick and mortar store and order it.
Oh, how cool is that?
Or to my website at donnivens.com.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
if you hear my little dog.
Oh, well, we have a dog as our mascot, so that didn't bother me a bit. Don, thank you so much. And my gosh, please let's stay in touch. And we really are so humbled that you allowed us here at American Veterans Radio to be able to be the first ones who play this worldwide. You're awesome, man. Keep up. I love your humbleness. And if anybody, if you know me at all, I don't care if you're worth $1 million, but if you know where you come from and you're worth $1 million, that means you busted your ass and you did it. And as long as you stay humble, you're brother to brother to me. That's the way I look at it.
Oh, well, thank you. And Jim, man, I appreciate it so much. I appreciate all of your listeners.